This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the president and CEO of Libero Copper, Mr. Ian Harris. Ian, un placer. It's great to have you on. How are you today, sir?
Muy bien. Thank you very much for having me, and doing very well, thanks.
Well, listen, this is a new story to our audience. It's no secret to anybody that follows, any of my rantings and ravings and what I do that I am extremely bullish on copper. Copper is, one of my personal largest weighings in my portfolio, copper exposure. And I do a lot of that through the equities, specifically the juniors. And so when I spoke with a mutual contact that we have about potentially helping tell the story, I looked at the market cap, I looked at the revitalization of the company, and I looked at the people involved, and it checked a lot of boxes for me. So I want to start talking about the project and going there. But before that, I would love to get a bit of primer on your background for those not familiar with you, because this project being in Colombia and your experience in Latin America, I think, is very critical to the story and will be here moving forward.
Thanks. I think the most important part is that I'm a mining engineer, so a lot of junior companies are run by geologists or others or bankers or whatever. As a mining engineer, my perspective is I want to work on projects that can get pushed across a finish line. I like being involved in projects that can become future mines. And that's not only in my background, but we can talk about some of the board and some of the other executives involved in the company share that a similar background. I've got over 25 years working in the industry, the majority of those over 15 working and living in South America. I'm currently living in Colombia. I've been working here for the last 8 years. Previously, very early in my career, actually, I went and was part of the startup of the San Cristobal mine, the mine side of it, in Bolivia. And then later was in Ecuador, where I was the senior VP and country manager for Corriente Resources, and took the Mirador project really from PEA all the way through feasibility. It sold for $690 million, stayed on board as a part of the sales agreement for 1 year with the two Chinese SOEs that acquired the project, and stayed on as chief engineer and started construction of that project. It went on to be the first industrial scale project in the history of Ecuador. That was also copper. It was also in the Jurassic Belt, which I know very well, which is where our flagship, our main, 99.9% of our focus today, the Makoa project, in the same Jurassic Belt in Colombia. And why don't I just dive just a little bit? Because while Makoa is a very significant asset, and I want to dive into that, but we recently have really, there's been some significant changes. We've tightened up a board. Still on the board with me is Ernie Mast as a director. And he has a very similar experience. He was the CEO of Inmet's Cobre Panama, and he took that project all the way to getting its permits in place for construction. Obviously, it went on to be purchased for multiple billions, I think, by First Quantum, that went on to construct that very large copper project. And it's really the Mirador and Cobre Panama projects are the two closest projects operating to Mirador, right? And so that's just a part of the depth of the team. I'm a mining engineer. Ernie's a metallurgist, but obviously have a lot of geological and exploration strength within the company. But really, it's not too many times that you can say that been involved with a project of that size and scale. Also, at the end of the year, beginning of the year, we moved into the Fiore office. Frank Giustra is now the largest shareholder of the company, and obviously has a very big vision when it comes to copper. So I think that we have an amazing team in place, an amazing board in place, amazing backers in place. And obviously there's some expectations that you're going to hopefully see some exciting things in Libero, not just at the Makoa project.
Let's, for the time being, obviously the track record with the team speaks for itself. The network, the ability to vend in quality projects, the ability to finance, and the ability to move projects forward. That is all documented. But, I do want to focus on Mocoa for a bit. You just had some news today announcing the approval of municipality of Mocoa's 4-year development plan. And again, I think that your experience in Latin America and the team's familiarity is going to be really important for advancing this specific project forward, and potentially being able to bring other accretive projects in. Let's talk Mocoa for the time being. Can you break down the project for me?
Sure. As I explained, Mocoa is a significant copper and moly porphyry in Colombia. It's the same Jurassic belt. That belt is very prolific in the same area that we really have locked down in Colombia. In the same area in Ecuador was Mirador, Mirador Norte, Pananza, San Carlos, and Morinza. And the further north in that belt in Ecuador is still not explored. Thank goodness geology doesn't respect country boundaries, and that Jurassic belt continues into Colombia, and Mirador is proof of its potential. And today it's really a project that's, besides having a very significant resource, is still in diapers. It's not in pañales. It's in its diapers, right? It's open in all directions. We have multiple additional targets around because the Jurassic belt is famous for its clustering of porphyry centers. But even today, the resource is over 600 million tons. It's at a 0.45 equivalent copper grade. And that's over 2 million tons of copper. And it's over 200,000 tons of moly, which is equivalent to the world production of moly. It's one of the largest undeveloped moly deposits in the world, and actually one of the even higher grade than many pure moly plays out there. But it's still just in the beginning. It's one of the world's largest undeveloped copper projects. So it's already significant in its own right and has the potential to continue to grow. And you talked quickly. It's been an interesting road because based on the experience in Latin America, experience in the project at Mirador in Ecuador, right? It's critically important to build strength and relationships locally, and it's not really what you always see in the annual sustainability reports, right? It's about really connecting and creating relationships locally that build a real strength locally. It drives political will both on a regional and a national level that takes projects moving forward. And so we've been spending a lot of time doing just that. And this news, it's hard to always articulate, right? But we've we've created new relationships with the new mayor based off of those strong local relationships that we've already created. And I can talk a little bit of the things we've done previously that have gotten us to this point, and has really created a significant shift in the Makoa area, right? And it's been important for me to not just create that support, but be able to demonstrate it. And having that development plan approved is a major step for us. Because when we began our exploration activities this year at Makoa, we want to make sure we're doing it from a position of strength, right? That there's significant support, there's significant demonstrable support. Because let's be fair, Colombia still is in a politically charged environment now, and we do not want to become a lightning rod. We want to be a project that is clearly demonstrable and that the choice is easy, right? to become part of the project because that is politically beneficial, because it shows a very strong local support and regional support. And we're very much aligned with what the national, regional, and local governments want to do.
What comes next for Libero? I know there's a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of chatter. What do you see here for the second half of the year?
Really, I see while it's difficult to put an exact time, but I do see us advancing on the Makoa project and restarting drilling at it. From a position of strength, having more visibility locally and regionally for what the project means. But just to put it into perspective, in 2021, we did drill one confirmation hole into the project, and it was 1,200 meters at around a 0.6, I think. It was 0.42 copper and 0.047 moly from top to bottom of that hole, right? Including over 250 meters at over 1% copper equivalent. I mean, this is a project that hits at some of the best projects in the world. There's very few projects that are showing those types of levels and grades over such large intersects in the world. So we know that through drilling alone, not only we have significant opportunity for resource expansion, but even if the market stays where it is today, which I don't think it will, but it produces numbers that get a lot of attention. So that's something that we can see will be advancing. And then once we do, we want to start advancing on the project as quickly as possible, adding as many drills as we can logistically do so to really start advancing the project from a position of strength.
You mentioned being involved with, and helping monetize assets to the tune of, I believe the number was some 690 million. What is the Libero market cap today? Just to provide a bit of contrast to the potential upside there if you execute correctly.
Market is always a big factor in everything, but we can see, I think one of the easy comparables is the Solaris Warintza project, because it's similar size potential, very similar grades, especially both high grade cores and overall resource are very similar in overall grade on a copper equivalent basis. And Mirador has the potential to grow, I think, to the size of something like Warintza, and Solaris has had a market cap up to $1 billion. And I do tell a lot of the decisions we make is because we know we have $1 billion-ish style asset, right? That's the type of asset it is. And so it requires a little bit more medium and long-term focus because you want to make sure, again, that this can go forward and become a future mine. And I see a lot of different projects that, they get a big valuation and they sort of collapse because they hit some sort of brick wall. And I know that we have a team in place that can manage that, both locally, politically, financially, design, everything, right? That can make sure that we're navigating this properly. So I think that, Mirador has the chance to become a future mine and add to that really big anticipated supply demand deficit that's coming in copper.
Couldn't agree more on the supply deficit side. Excited to see what you and the team are able to do. The company's got some new energy, some new legs. It's experienced. It's got the financial backing it needs. Let's see what you do with it. Thank you so much for coming on, Ian. I'm looking forward to having you back on soon.
Yeah, I look forward to keeping you guys updated, and hopefully we're doing some amazing things this year.
Sounds good. Take care out there. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.